Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 542 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our sixth book just came out. It's called I'm So Beautiful, It's Ridiculous, Unleashing and Promoting Strength, Self-Worth, and Real Sisterhood. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, I love working across various councils because I learn so much from people who are different from me. Some of my best connections in the fraternity and sorority industry are actually folks from NPHC, MGC, and Panhellenic councils. So please don't fall into this trap of only hanging out with people in your council. I want you to find out who are the leaders in all of the other councils on campus and be very intentional in building those relationships by inviting them out to your events, supporting their events, and having occasional one-on-one meetings with them over lunch or breakfast. You will be shocked at just how much you can help each other because the areas in which your chapter or council happens to be weak in is typically a strong suit for the other person that you're going to be meeting with. They have ideas to help you move your organization forward and vice versa, by the way. Not to mention, these leaders that you're going to be meeting with from other councils, they are going to be extremely successful in their careers after college. So you never know when that connection post-college is going to come in handy for an internship, a job, or a possible client for a new business that you come up with. Let's talk a little bit more about all of these ideas with our next guest. Lauren Gesualdi is the Assistant Director of Fraternity and Sorority Affairs at Rutgers University, New Brunswick. Lauren earned her BA from Montclair State University and completed her coursework at the Rutgers Graduate School of Education in the College Student Affairs Master's Program. Lauren is a member of Delta Phi Epsilon International Sorority and spent several years as a member of their professional staff. We are super excited to have Lauren on the Fraternity Foodie Podcast today. Welcome to the show, Lauren.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am so pumped to have you on the show because you have so much to share with undergraduate students. So it makes total sense that you are a rock star at Rutgers University. And I want to talk a little bit about your undergraduate experience because I think that kind of frames up everything that happens in your life afterwards. You decided on Montclair State for your undergraduate experience. And I'm wondering, I mean, I love all the schools in Jersey, don't get me wrong, but why did you decide that Montclair State was going to be the right place for you?
Yeah, so it's funny because like now, right, they have like that common application, right? So I'll
Mhm.
meet students and like, yeah, I applied to 28 schools and I'm like, oh wow, that's a lot. I only applied to Montclair and Rutgers, right? Rutgers being the state institution of New Jersey and Montclair, I had like some people that I went to school with that are like a few years above me that went, but also they are known for their teaching program and I wanted to be an elementary school teacher at the time. So I applied to both. I went on a tour at Rutgers with my mom. I'll never forget it. And it was like a few minutes in the tour, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna get on the buses now because everywhere you go, you have to take a bus." And we looked at each other, and I was like, "This is way too big. Like, oh my goodness gracious." So then we went to Montclair, which is the second largest school in the state, but is half the size of Rutgers. And it felt just so much more quaint at the time for where I was in my life. And I was like, okay, like I could do this. And I remember, and this will lead into, another conversation, but we were at the tour at Montclair. My mom was using the bathroom, and there was a woman at a table, like a student, and I just started talking to her. She was so nice, didn't recruit me, just like was just chopping it up with me as I waited for my mom, which will be relevant later. And I thought she was like pleasant, loved the campus, wanted to do teaching, and I was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. But then it came full circle because I ended up, like you said, getting my master's at Rutgers also. So I checked both off eventually.
So eventually you got to Rutgers. It was just delayed by a few years. That's all,
Right.
right?
I had to grow.
I love that story. And I totally can empathize with that idea of a campus just seeming overwhelming and being very large when you're coming maybe from a smaller high school. And then suddenly you're at Rutgers. I mean, the flagship of the New Jersey system. it's too much. Yeah, I totally can get that. Now, you also joined Delta Phi Epsilon there, so I'm wondering what was special about DPhi that made you want to join their organization over the other sororities on campus?
Yeah, so this quite a few years ago, right? So I wouldn't be happy if like someone told me this was their joining story current day. But I was on all girls floor. All the other floors in the building were co-ed, right? My now husband was on the ninth floor, party floor, whatever. My floor was like quiet. They always tell you like, oh, when you get to college, like everyone's in the same boat, makes friends, everyone's doors are open. I was like, not the case. And so one day, like I saw a girl in the hallway. I didn't know that she was a legacy, nor did I have any concept of what that was. But she was like, "Oh, we're going to Delta Phi Epsilon's house tonight. You should come." And I didn't know anything about Greek life. I'm first gen. Like there was one girl in the grade above me in high school that joined a sorority at UCF, right? And her mansion was massive. They had the it was I think she's a member of Alpha Delta Pi, so they had the lions at the driveway.
Mhm.
So like
Sure.
that was my concept of Greek life, you know? But so the girl on my floor said we're gonna go tonight, and I was like, I'll go. Like like I don't, what do I have to lose?
Mm.
And so they pulled all these cars up right outside the residence hall. We just got in, which like, now in hindsight, I'm like, what made that seem like it was a good idea? They drove us 2 towns over to a house. But actually I forgot a part. So to backtrack, on move-in day, um, two women helped myself and my parents move me in. One was the girl that I talked to during the tour when my mom was in the bathroom. The
Mhm.
other was just like another girl. They had no apparel on. They made no mention of the organization. They just were like really helpful and like we enjoyed being around them. So fast forward, right? We get to this house that was like in a town because we don't have houses at Montclair, so it's just like a satellite house.
Mhm.
And I walk in with like all the girls from my floor, and the vice president of recruitment is sitting there, and it's one of the girls who moved me in, and next to her is the girl that was at the table. And I'm like, so it all just like kind of fell together. I didn't explore other sororities at the time.
Yeah.
I just like was like, I like it here. I love the women. Like they all really were like the kind of women I wanted to be. Like they were like, like bosses. And I was like, yeah, this is like, I'm here for it. I didn't really learn, which is not a great thing to say, but I didn't really learn about DeFi in depth until I started working there
Yeah.
and like really then understanding the founding story. So like thankfully I believe in what we stand for and like it aligns my values, but I really joined because of the people initially, which I think is like a common reason, right?
Yeah, everybody joins because of the people. So I think that's the biggest thing that comes out of your story. It wasn't the big event, it was that connection to somebody who had helped you move in or you had a conversation with outside of the bathroom when your mom was going to the bathroom and it was
Right.
just familiar and it was comfortable. And so, and then they help you move in. I mean, all of these things is like a blueprint for success. And DeFi was doing the right thing at Montclair State. And I love that you ended up at DeFi because I think of all the sororities, I view DeFi as like the most progressive. And I love that about them. I just feel like they're just fierce. And it just totally tracks that, of course, you would be a member of DeFi. So looking back at it now, I'm like, well, that totally makes sense.
It really worked out. But I will say missed opportunities, right? As now
Yeah,
as a Greek advisor, I have to point them out to be developmental.
sure.
Like they didn't mention DeFi at the table while
Right.
my mom was in the bathroom. They didn't mention it when I was moving in. Like it again worked out. Like I believe in fate, but like they should have been like selling themselves that whole
Totally.
time, right?
Totally. They should have been wearing DeFi letters and they
Mhm.
should have at least been, inviting you out to DeFi events afterwards. Get your phone number, get your email address, and then keep those communication lines going all semester long, not just like drop off the face of the earth and then suddenly you pop up, during recruitment. Like,
Worked out, right?
what about all that time in between?
Exactly. But again, I ended up where I belong, so that's
Yeah,
good.
you ended up in the right place, so everything worked out. But I feel like that was lucky, right? Like it could have gone a different way. So interesting to me. And of course, after graduation, you went to work for DeFi headquarters as the coordinator of collegiate services and organizational growth. Tell our audience who, I'm sure they're very curious about working for headquarters. What was that like working for your headquarters, and what did you learn in that process?
Yeah, so I loved working there. I adored it. So I started actually right out of school as a consultant. They put me at Stockton University in South Jersey to start a chapter there. And
Mm.
so I was supposed to be there for a year. And then like I think it was only like maybe 6 months in, I got promoted to membership manager, which that position has been phased out, but I was responsible for like, the operations of 25 chapters. And then like, well, as when I was a consultant, but as a membership manager, I was helping to start chapters, like helping the consultants at the time, and they were just sending me places because I just always enjoyed recruitment and just, relationship building. So that's how I then ultimately got promoted to be the coordinator of organizational growth. So in my time, I started, I think it was like 15 chapters across the country. We did the math one day, and it was like over 900 women I brought into the organization, which was just awesome. I've been to over 25 states that I wouldn't have gone to if it wasn't for the job. So like when I'm like talking to my students now, I'm like, if you like aren't dead set on what you want to do next, like you love this, clearly you're in a leadership role, like you should do it. I got to travel the whole country, paid for, got to meet, undergraduates all over the place, share our sisterhood with women across the country, meet alumni all over. Like it was just such an awesome experience that I'm so glad I had. And that's like the perfect time for it. Like I don't think I could be traveling every other week now,
No, no.
but then that was like fun and exciting and going and staying. Like I spent like 3 consecutive Januaries in Syracuse. I was mind blown by the fact that they get 6 feet of snow and they're still going to class because that's not the case
Mhm.
here, right? In New Jersey. I spent like a 1 week a month for a year and a half in Arizona. I fell in love with it so much. I ended up getting engaged there. Like it just like exposed me to like so many experiences. But ultimately what ended up happening was as I moved up the ladder, which obviously is the goal, I found myself in my office one day and like I wasn't working with students anymore. I was the one overseeing the consultants and the projects and everything. And I was like, man, like that's the part that you like, right? Because I
Mhm.
mean, candidly, we don't do this for the money. So I'm like, I'm missing that key component. And then I went to IFI actually.
Mhm.
And I was talking to someone there who at the time was the assistant director of fraternity sorority affairs at Rutgers. And I was like, yeah, I want to stay in New Jersey, but I want to be a campus-based professional now. And he's like, well, we're hiring a grad. And I was like, well, maybe I'll apply. And coincidentally, again, bring it back to fate, we took a picture that night with our aprons on, that you get at I-Fi.
Sure.
2 years to the day of that picture was my first day on staff as a full-time professional.
Amazing. I absolutely love
Like
that story.
came together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally get it too. I mean, even serving as executive director of Sigma Pi, like really what I enjoyed most about that job was working with the undergrads and helping students. And if I, am so far removed from that as executive director, and my job now is much more, managing the board of directors, I'm like, that's not what I signed up for. Like,
Right.
it's just not what I'm interested in. I'd much rather be working with the undergraduate students and developing our chapters and helping them grow. And so I totally get where you're coming from the headquarters perspective. But I mean, think about it this way. I mean, you gave the gift of sorority to 900 women. I mean, that is huge. I mean, that's a legacy that nobody can ever take away from you. And I just think that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's really incredible. So kudos to you. And so now you're the assistant director of fraternity and sorority affairs at Rutgers, New Brunswick. Tell our audience, what do you do in that role, and what are you most proud of in terms of your accomplishments at Rutgers?
Absolutely. So, I'm the assistant director. I advise currently, this wasn't the initial plan, but this is where we're at.
Yeah.
So I advise our Interfraternity Council, our Multicultural Greek Council, and our National Panhellenic Council. So I was hired to advise the IFC, and then it just kind of happened this way. I have 56 chapters total that I'm responsible for.
Mhm.
So there's never a boring day. I don't have days where that are slow, like there's some days where I have a meeting every hour. But I love it. And honestly, like I think what I'm most proud of is my relationships with my students. So when I first got here, I was the grad intern, but because I had a whole career before I got here, they just gave me a counsel, whereas I think previous grads were probably like co-advisors. So they gave me the IFC, and off the bat, I had to prove myself that like I could be a sorority woman and like advise fraternities. And I wasn't anticipating, that might sound naive now, but I wasn't anticipating that, right? My first IFC president at a president's meeting referred to me as his intern, and I was like, oh boy,
Oh
I have my
boy.
work cut out for me. But I was able to like get them to a place now where my supervisor says often, like, they frequent the office more than they ever have before.
Mm.
Like, they're actually coming here proactively, right? They'll tell me, like, we have like a rule. If you're afraid to say something, I'm like, you could say hypothetically, and then we'll discuss it that way.
Yeah.
And it works. It's been working. And then you also, this, like, once you create a relationship with one president, they pass that down, right? Like in their transition, they're like, Lauren's cool. Make sure you get to know her. Make sure you stop by. So that has like worked out really well.
Hmm.
But even greater than that is my relations with my MGC and my NPHC. I think that I'm very lucky from my undergraduate experience. So at Montclair, all of the councils do everything together. Or at least when I was there. I shouldn't speak now because obviously I don't work there or go there. But we were all very intertwined in that we co-sponsored all of our events together. We had I had a mixer with LUL, like that was like a normal thing. Like we had a Greek council, which I think was unique in that every single Tuesday at 5:30, every single president of every single chapter sat in like the hollow square and we discussed business together. So like everyone knew everyone.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking it was like that everywhere, right? And then I ended up becoming Greek Council president and they sent me to UIFI. And I'm at UIFI and I'm talking to some other student leaders and I'm like, I'm there on behalf of the whole community. So I'm like, what kind of programming does your NPHC do? And they're like, who? And I'm like, the Divine Nine? The D9? No? Like they didn't know who I was talking about. And I was like, wow, it's not like this everywhere. So I'm again lucky that I had that experience and I had like my one best friend was an alpha, my other best friend is a lambda theta phi. And so I went to my first probate, which coincidentally ended up being here at Rutgers. And it was exposed to that. So I like learned all that stuff early, which I think really aids me in what I do here on a daily basis because I'm a Pan-Atlantic woman advising culturally based groups, right? It's not a secret. So I have to put in that extra effort to make sure that like I understand the groups that I'm working with and can support them where they're at. And like it's as simple as like changing the language that we're using, right?
Right.
It's like, is it a big deal if I say, new member class first line? Maybe not, but they don't feel understood and seen, right? So I like make sure I educate myself, which I think is like also a key point in like not relying on them to do that, right? I had
Mhm.
to put in my own work. And I also like when I got here took a look at all of our policies and like sat with my supervisor and like one of our reports asked for how many bids we gave out. I'm like, they don't use that language. Like, how could we change this to be more inclusive of them? And then as that like, and it took time, right? Like I wanted to like speed it up. I'm like, no, you could trust me, but like they had to get there on their own. And now like they'll come to me and they'll say like we have our viability policy was that you had to maintain 10 members. And the Sigmas came here and they're like, let's talk about this. And I'm like, sure, let's hear it. And then we lowered it to 5. It was right after COVID. It made more sense. And I think that's what I'm most proud of is that they feel like they can come and say that now. And like they like identify me as an ally. And like that's all I've ever wanted to be. And I think, again, it requires effort, it requires intentionality, and you have to make sure that you're like in the know.
Mm. Man, that is beautiful. You had such a good undergraduate experience that it just felt totally normal to you. But for me, knowing what other students are getting out of their undergraduate experience, it might not look like that. And then you went to UIFI, transformational. I mean, every undergraduate should go. Let me
Agreed.
just throw that out there. And then IFI, right? So like you've had the full experience. You did not get cheated on anything in fraternity and sorority life. And so I wish that every undergraduate would have an experience like you did because, obviously it meant your career and where you went. And it doesn't always work out that way. So I guess I'm just kind of sad for those that didn't get that experience. So
Most
anyway,
people don't even know this is a career, right?
right.
Like you don't know unless you're interacting with this office. Like part of my story and my journey is that I like my chapter hazed, right? It was again, 15 years ago, and some of it we did publicly because it was acceptable, right? Like back then, you could have an 8-week process that was acceptable.
Mm.
And when I became president, we ultimately end up getting caught. And I like, which I can't take really credit for this because I don't know why, but I think as most presidents in this situation find themselves, like you either try and lie your way out of it or you just like ask for help. And I don't know why, but I was like, it's up. Like we're caught. We need to just like ask for help and make positive changes.
Yeah.
Ended up getting suspended for a year and a half, during my first presidency. But during that time, I worked so closely with the Greek Life Office, with administration, with conduct, with DeFi headquarters that like when I graduated, it was like, absolutely, what else would I do?
Mm.
So unfortunately, I had to go through some stuff to get there, but it like again worked out the way it was supposed to. And then I again had all those opportunities available to me, which was awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part of your story that not everything necessarily was swimmingly perfect,
Mhm.
but you had some adversity and you were able to overcome that. And I think that just gives a lot of hope to a lot of chapters out there that are looking at their chapter going, yeah, my chapter is not really great, but you can turn it around. I mean, you're a living proof of that. And so kudos to you. I think that's what this whole experience in college needs to be about. It's about education. And did I do everything perfectly as the chapter president of Sigma Pi at the University of Buffalo? Absolutely not.
No.
Did I do everything perfectly as the executive director of Sigma Pi? No, no, I did not. And, am I perfect today here at Greek U? No. We make mistakes and we learn. And I think the college experience, that's the perfect opportunity to learn and figure out better ways to do things. And I think we need to do more of that education as opposed to the punishing, right? Like if we get to that education and we can turn things around, then you can see the results. Look at Lauren and look at her career. Obviously, she was able to turn everything around and make a huge impact on DeFi and every council at Rutgers today. So I just think it's a wonderful story. It really, from start to finish, it's incredible. You talked about, all of these diverse councils working together at Montclair State. And I think that the big question that I have here is it seems like many students, many campuses really struggle to get their councils working together like you had at Montclair State. So, what is the secret sauce to getting everyone working together?
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, it is a challenge here at Rutgers, right? Because
Hmm.
of the size of our community.
Right.
Like I have 79 fraternities and sororities right now. So I don't even have a space big enough to have everyone in one place. So it is definitely a work in progress here. And I can't take credit for Montclair because it was like that when I got there. But I think from like if I reflect on my undergraduate experience, like it it was the norm or as far as we were concerned, right? Like we sat on that council together, we programmed together. They did require that we had to have like, part of like the accreditation or what, whatever you call that program that you do annually, that you had to have co-sponsorships with organizations and other councils. So there was like that mandatory piece, and I know we like try and like not do that, but once you have that requirement in a community, after a few years, again, it becomes their norm of like, of course we're going to co-sponsor this with the Zetas because we always do. We've always done it that way,
We've
right?
always done
Love
it that
that.
way.
So I think like for a campus that's like looking to try and like bridge the gap between the groups, like maybe you add that where like they're encouraged to or they get extra incentives if they do reach out across councils. I also try my conversations when I know like two organizations are doing pretty much the same thing. Like I'll be like, why don't we like bring you both together? And like you're both gonna have a breast cancer awareness fundraiser, something this week. Like why not just do one, right? And then they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then I bring them together, introduce them. I like try and like tell them a commonality that they have, right? I feel like, from recruitment that like always like helps people. And then I'm like, let's plan this together. And so I've been successful in that. Um, I just think like, and especially this generation, like they're nervous, right? That like if I don't know you, like that's social, like we just went to NGLA and my
Mhm.
students did not want to go to a session by themselves. Like that was like the craziest idea I ever had. So we had to like work in pairs and I'm like, okay. So I think for advisors, it's about putting them in the space together and like doing that extra legwork in the beginning to like break the ice for them. And then they usually do take it from there, right?
Mhm.
But just like pointing out like this would make more sense if you did it this way. Like I had Sigma Chi last year here with their Derby days. They had LSU come and be their like opening act, and everyone loved it. And I'm like, see, like you can include things like that. So it's always a work in progress, but I think it requires effort on both ends for sure.
Yeah, great advice. Really nice. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was mental health. We both know that mental health and well-being, they're really critical components for student success. So, how did you manage this as an undergraduate and also as a graduate student?
Yeah. So I didn't is the short answer.
Hmm.
if I talk to sisters now that were active in the chapter with me, and they had no idea that I was like struggling so severely with depression. I hid that very well.
Mhm.
And with my anxiety, I think I just channeled that, like, I just like threw myself into leadership, right? I was DPHE president, I was Greek Council president. I like packed my days with meetings. I'd leave early in the morning and I wouldn't come home until late at night. My roommates are like, "Where have you been?" Like, I had my own office at Montclair, which was super cool as an undergrad. So like I, brought my lunch and that's where I was. Like, I think I just overpacked my schedule.
Mhm.
But this is a critical question because I recently, in the last 3 years, have actually finally sought out the help that I needed so desperately. And so now I'm very open about that, especially with my students. I firmly believe in leading by example. Unfortunately, it kind of took me like getting to a really low place, and I ended up having to go into an intensive outpatient program 2 summers ago.
Mhm.
And so I didn't even know those existed. When I came back and was like had this whole new view, I found out that Rutgers actually offers one to students. And it was like transformative for me. I'm in a totally different place. I now have a therapist whom I love and has helped me through so much. I have a psychiatrist who I is like my support team is just like so rock solid. So while I'm in a great place and I'm glad I'm here, all of these resources that I had to like search for as an adult are at your fingertips on a college campus
Mhm.
and they're not being utilized, right? Um, by most, but I'm going to say as the IFC advisor, especially by my men,
Mhm.
like the thought of like walking down to counseling services is like they would never, right? They're like, "Oh
Mhm.
no, I'm fine, right? I'm good. I'm good." And I'm like, "You're well, are you? You just shared a few things that might suggest otherwise."
Mhm.
So I think for this, like, I wish that I did this in college when it was available to me. Our counseling services here at Rutgers, like I think they only do a certain amount of sessions. Like that might be standard on college campuses, but then they help you find your next person, right?
Right.
Like they also here, a student was just telling me that she had her first session and they set a goal with you, and then like the sessions, they talk through what you need to talk through, but they also make sure they come back to that goal. So when you're done with them, you feel like you accomplished something, right? One minor change. And it's free, right? It's covered by your insurance that you have here. There's also, like I said, we have an IOP program here. I'm sure other schools do. There's also like group therapy. Like I get emails on a weekly basis as a staff member, like our division newsletter, and I was scrolling through it and I'm like, "Oh, we offer that?" Like I saw it's called Togetherall. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it, sure.
I'm like, "Oh my God, we have that here." Then I saw BetterHelp. So as an employee who's probably supposed to know all of these things, every day I'm discovering more resources. So I think like again, advice to undergrads would be like go talk to like your ally on campus, your support person, whether that's your academic advisor or your Greek advisor or your cultural center advisor. Like we have a better grasp on what is offered and like we could direct you in those areas. Because I do wish again, happy where I'm at now. I wish I started when I was younger. I could have used it then probably more than I realized.
Yeah, same. Totally the same. I didn't discover seeing a therapist until I was an adult. And I'm like, man, this could have helped me as an undergrad because I was
Come on.
juggling so much as chapter president. And it just would have totally helped me out. And it was free. Your tuition is paying for those counselors that are sitting at the counseling center on your campus right now. So
Exactly.
you might as well use it. You're paying for it. So if you don't use it, well, that's on you. And so, yeah, great advice. I wish I would have started earlier. It would have been so helpful. So there's that. So thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable in that way. I'm also wondering, you mentioned that a lot of students come in to see you at the office, and this is like the first time that you're really seeing that kind of stuff happening. How can Greek leaders work more effectively with the campus administration to improve their organizations?
Yes. So communication, right, is key. Like I say this probably a million times a day. I can't help you if I don't know that you need help, right? But
Mhm.
also what's even more important than that is like asking in a timely manner, right? So it's like, we want to put on this philanthropy event next week. And it's like, no, 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 back up. Like we're going to plan this for the fall. So it's like big and successful. But I try like, so, you know, a lot of my chapters have like their signature philanthropy events. But then I have chapters who've never done that, but they're in a place now size wise and like, like high functioning, like strong brotherhood, sisterhood, that they could do that. So I'm like, if this is something you want to do, like bring in your philanthropy chair, bring in your community service chair, like let's do it. Like let's talk about it. I again like I'm lucky with the previous experiences I've had. I've worked at over 100 campuses when I was at DPHE. Like I've seen all types of programs and events and workshops and everything. Like I'll share and share and share, and you could take what you want. Like, and always preface it with like, I'm going to give you all the tools for your toolbox. Whatever you use is fine. Like sometimes we joke that we'll like lay all the ideas out and they leave them behind. Yeah, and you're like, no, you forgot these on the floor here. Um, but I just try and like, be like really approachable and like say like whatever you want to do, we'll do. Like if it's a bad idea, we'll make it a good one. Like there's no such thing. Like so I think students need to lean on us more, right? And also like again, as a staff member, I have colleagues in all other departments. So like if they're trying to do something that I'm like, this is not a strength of mine, I'll connect you immediately to someone else. Like half of college should be about networking, right? We pride our organizations on like we have all these networking opportunities if you join us. So
Mhm.
like I will help you do that. I think it's just like asking for help, being communicative, showing up. Like I tell all my students they're not required to meet with me, but there is a direct correlation to my students who are on a stat or my chapters who are on a status who I never see, and then the
Mhm.
presidents who come in frequently. Like that's what we're here for. Like we want to help you succeed. We want you to have an experience as good as ours or even better. But I think they get caught up sometimes in thinking that, we're out to get them. So I think that
Mhm.
that's a barrier we face.
Absolutely. Man, I tell you what, you and I can talk for hours and it's going to feel like 5 minutes. I mean, we've already, spoken for a half hour and it literally felt like 2 minutes. All of that being said, I just want to key in on one last question here because I think this is super important. It's this culturally competent programming aspect. Have you seen successful examples of culturally competent programming within Greek life? That could have been at Rutgers, that could have been at Montclair State, that other chapters around the country can learn from?
Absolutely. So I've seen all your like traditional, right? Like you bring in like a speaker series, you do, like Heritage Month celebrations, like all of the I've seen all of that.
Mhm.
The one that I think is something that a lot of chapters could benefit from is we were actually talking yesterday about our Meet the Greeks that we're going to plan for this fall. And I realize that I think Meet the Greeks is different on the East Coast than it is like for the rest of the country. So what it usually is like every organization will have a table of some sort, but then there's a big stepping and strolling showcase for our culturally based groups, right? At Rutgers, our other councils actually don't table at it because it's usually part of our involvement fair. So like everyone has a table at the involvement fair, every club and organization, and then Meet the Greeks like is that night also part of the involvement fair. But anyway, so what we're planning to do this fall is we're going to remove it from the involvement fair. We're going to make it a part of Culture Fest with our four cultural centers, and we're also partnering with major events and programming. They're having a big food truck festival. So it's going to be Meet the Greeks, a food truck festival, and Culture Fest all in one place.
Wow.
And the reason why I feel like bragging about this is what I think is so great about it is first off, when we're partnering with these other departments, it takes a huge financial burden off of all of the organizations involved,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
now we can pay for the $3,000 stage and we can help subsidize the, police and security bill, which is really helpful, especially for, let's say, my MGC and NPHC who have smaller numbers and don't bring in as much dues as like, in comparison to the IFC. So
Mhm.
that's huge. But also what I think is special about it is like the cultural centers are their other homes aside from my office, right? They're in other clubs and organizations that fall within like our different cultural centers. Those are their other advisors. That's where they study. So like to have us all in one place, I think is like really awesome, right? And also they're friends from these other centers, but then it like expands their recruitment pool for Meet the Greeks, right? And
Mhm.
like it's Meet the Greeks helps Culture Fest helps Meet the Greeks, the food trucks help everybody. Like
Yes.
I think it just like brings everyone together in a really collaborative way. And I don't think enough communities and schools do this because Greeks have this very exclusive mindset, right? Like it's ours and we don't need anyone else. We're gonna do it ourselves. We'll do it with each other, but we're not gonna, and like, why? Like, let's
Mhm.
pull our resources together and just like again expand like our horizons, I guess. And it has worked really well for us and it's something I'm really proud of.
It's so smart tapping into these other budgets, tapping into these other events that are happening around campus anyway, you might as well work together and save money. Why is it always FSL budget? And we never think about including other departments. Maybe it's athletics. Like there's money around campus. And so you got to figure out how to work together. That is the biggest challenge. And you're right. Everyone just assumes that we're on our own, but that's not necessarily the case. Some of these other events would love to have a built-in group of students that they know are going to show up. So, super smart. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now, I love really good food, and I get the sense that you know something about good food. And so the next time I happen to be speaking at Rutgers, I need to know where should I be going in town in order to get a great meal.
Yes, I also love food. So I think the OGs watching are going to expect me to say the grease trucks. Have you heard of the grease
I've
trucks?
heard of the grease trucks.
Yeah. Unfortunately, those are gone.
Oh no.
Yeah, they replaced them with, a big apartment building and like all these other like food areas. So no longer here. They did move to a storefront. So I think if you have not had a fat sandwich, you kind of have to like that's like your Rutgers, we call it the Rucket list, right? You have to like check that box.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there's so many good places downtown. It's like really hard to narrow it down. But one of my favorite go-tos is called Old Man Rafferty's. So it's a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
It's I don't know that you're going to run into too many college students there, but the food's really good. It's kind of like you feel like you're sitting in a library, which is kind of cool.
Mhm.
I pulled one of Dale Carney's books off the shelf last time I was there and was like flipping through that as we were waiting for our food. So I love it there. But yeah, there's so many places, so many walkable places. My students love a place called Stuff Your Face, which is more of like a college bar, sports, burgers type joint. So you can't
Mhm.
really go wrong. But I had to mention the fat sandwiches because I don't want people to be like, how could she work at Rutgers and not know about them? So I'll throw those out
Talking about food, she never mentioned the fat sandwich.
there. Great.
Like,
I
what
have
kind of Rutgers person is this?
She's an imposter.
It's an imposter. She's not real. All right. So listen, this has been so fun. And I think that you have so much to offer other college students. And I feel like you speaking and consulting around the country to me makes total sense because it's just all about your experience and your DNA. You have so much to share with other college students to help them improve their fraternity and sorority community. So if students want to connect with you, ask for advice, maybe bring you in to speak on their college campus, where should they go in order to connect with you?
I first off would love that. I would absolutely that'd be a dream. So count me in. Um, what's the best way? I have my email,
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Instagram. You could find me really anywhere. I guess my best email to contact me at would be Lauren A. Gesualdi at gmail.com. Should I spell that or can we put it on the screen later? You let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. I can put it on the screen.
Yeah, so you can shoot me an email or on Instagram. I'm Lauren Giz, LaurenGes, and just, slide into my DMs. I would love the opportunity to come and speak and share and visit new campuses.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. So I'll tell you what, I'll spell it for you. If you want to go onto Instagram, connect with her at Lauren GES. So that's the place to go there. You can also go onto LinkedIn, and Lauren spells her last name Gesualdi. So go and connect with her on LinkedIn. Go slide into the DMs on Instagram, and you can easily reach her on either of those platforms, or just send her an email, and she would be happy to help. This has been so great. I've so enjoyed getting to know you a little bit more here on the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I already knew that you were a rock star. Like that was already like done. But now for sure, you are a rock star. And so thank you for everything that you've done, not just for DPHE, but for every fraternity, every sorority, every council, and literally the thousands of students that you have touched and you've given the gift of fraternity and sorority to. Boy, that's a beautiful legacy. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. This was a check off my bucket list, and I got to tell my mom.
Yeah, go tell your mom and share the video with your mom. All right. Well, Lauren, this has been a blast. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Lauren, and by the way, I know that you did, I want you to like this and I want you to share this with every fraternity and sorority student on your campus because they need to hear Lauren too. Trust me when I tell you that. So thank you so much. And we will see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. See you next time.